Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the podcast. And today, I'm going to go my review of WWE's SmackDown. Starting off the night, we had the women's competitors for Team Rhea coming out to the ring. Bayley looks to be the fifth member of Team Rhea, which I mentioned the other day. Rhea talks about War Games and how detrimental the match itself is. It'd be a very dangerous matchup. Naomi then grabs the microphone and mocks Nia Jax. Belair says that one of the other team members took out Jade, which no one knows who actually did attack Jade Cargill. Liv Morgan team is here. Nia then mocks Rhea's team. Liv says that it's interesting that Bayley is on the team after what happened to Jade Cargill. After that, an all-out brawl happens, and WWE officials try to come out to break up the brawl. Moving on from that, we go into our first official match of SmackDown. It is Andrade taking on the returning Shinsuke Nakamura. The match itself, I thought it was a good match, man. It was a back-and-forth matchup between Andrade and Nakamura, with Nakamura keeping the pace of the match. Andrade hits a Hurricane Rana on Nakamura. Andrade hits a moonsault to the outside, taking out Nakamura. Andrade then hits a spinning back elbow on Nakamura for a near fall, but Nakamura hits the finish on Andrade, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match is Shinsuke Nakamura. After the match, LA Knight comes out to the ring, but he is quickly sprayed in the face by Nakamura's mist that took out LA Knight. Moving on from that, we have a Kevin Owens segment. Owens talks about the Bloodline and what the Bloodline has done to him. Owens talks about Rhodes teaming up with Roman after everything that Roman and his Bloodline has done to Owens. Owens says that he's going to turn the American Nightmare into a Canadian dream. Definitely looking forward to that matchup between Owens and Rhodes, which will take place December 14th at Saturday night's main event. Definitely looking forward to that matchup. Speaking of Rhodes, we go into our next match of the night. It's Cody Rhodes taking on Carmelo Hayes. The match itself was a good match, back-and-forth matchup between Rhodes and Hayes, with Rhodes keeping the pace of the match. Rhodes hits a disaster kick on Hayes, as well as a power slam. Rhodes and Melo then both exchange in the middle of the ring, with Rhodes hitting a cutter on Carmelo Hayes. Rhodes then hits a signature crossroads on Hayes, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match is Cody Rhodes. Hats off to Cody Rhodes for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we have Roman Reigns and CM Punk sit down. They're sit down with Paul Heyman. Roman asked, "Where's Punk?" Punk was taking his sweet time to get to the sit-down. Punk then finally shows up, says that he showed up for Heyman. Roman says that he doesn't want Punk's help. Roman says that he doesn't even like Punk. Heyman tells Roman if Punk doesn't help, it's over, that they'll have to surrender to Solo. Heyman then says a warning to Punk, saying that Solo will come after him. Punk says that he doesn't like Roman. Roman says that it's a one-time deal for Punk to help him out. Punk says that Heyman will owe him a favor. Roman then asks Heyman about the favor, and Heyman tells Roman that they will worry about the favor after War Games. Definitely interesting stuff there between Paul Heyman and CM Punk. Moving on from that, we have a U.S. Women's Title Tournament matchup. It is Piper Niven versus Lash Legend versus Meechin. I thought it was a decent match. Back and forth matchup between Niven, Legend, and Meechin, with Meechin keeping the pace of the match. Meechin then hits a moonsault to the outside. Chelsea Green then attacks Meechin. B-Fab comes out to attack Chelsea Green. Lash Legend then hits a choke slam in the middle of the ring, as well as a devastating powerbomb for a near fall. Lash Legend then hits a Lash extension, but Meechin then goes for the pins for the 3, and your winner of the match, and moving on in the U.S. Women's Title Tournament, is Meechin. Hats off to Meechin for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into the main event of Friday Night SmackDown. It is Jey Uso taking on Jacob Fatu for the advantage in War Games. Number one, I thought Jacob Fatu's entrance was absolutely awesome. The match itself was a good match. Back and forth matchup between Jey and Jacob Fatu. Fatu was keeping the pace of the match. Uso then hits an enziguri. Fatu hits a moonsault. Uso then hits a spear on Fatu. Jey Uso then hits a Uso splash for a near fall. Fatu then hits a Samoan drop on Jey off the announce table. And then Jacob Fatu hits his signature moonsault off the top rope. Pins for the 3. And your winner of the match is Jacob Fatu, which means Solo Sikoa's Bloodline will have the advantage in this weekend's Bloodline. Definitely looking forward to that matchup between the original Bloodline and Solo Sikoa's new Bloodline. A couple of things I want to talk about, man, when it pertains to Friday Night SmackDown before I get the hell up out of here. Number one, was it a good show? Yes, it definitely was a good show. Obviously, the main vocal point of SmackDown was the sit-down between Roman Reigns and CM Punk. Now, Number one, the way that I've said this from even the time we saw Cody Rhodes and Roman teaming up, and they had that video package that was played between Roman and Cody Rhodes at the Georgia Tech football field, and the alma mater that Roman Reigns played college football, and obviously the hometown of the reigning WWE champion Cody Rhodes, for the build-up towards Bad Blood for their tag team matchup between Jacob Fatu and Solo Sikoa. I thought WWE did a fantastic job with the presentation of that. I'm going to say the same thing with this, man. WWE cannot miss and does not miss with these video packages and these, video packages that they put together to build up these events or pay-per-views, man. This sit-down between Roman, Punk, and Heyman was absolutely incredible. And there was a lot to really dissect from this. If you look at both sides of the fence here, whether it's Roman and Punk, obviously Roman has ties to Paul Heyman, with Paul Heyman being the wise man of Roman Reigns' bloodline, specifically Roman Reigns. Now, you look at Paul Heyman with CM Punk, there's a lot of history there between Punk and Paul Heyman. From, obviously, Punk being a Paul Heyman guy, CM Punk working with Paul Heyman in ECW, when they revamped the brand, if you will, and had Paul Heyman as the catalyst guy over there, the GM, if you will. But there's a lot of allegiance there between Phil Brooks and Paul Heyman. So if you look at the narrative now, obviously, with what Roman said, obviously he can't trust CM Punk. And Punk doesn't really trust Roman, and they don't really like each other. Who knows if that has any, truth to it or not, but they do not like each other as of right now. Roman telling Punk that he does not need his help, and then you look at Paul Heyman's face, it says, without Punk, it's over. Roman and his bloodline will have to surrender to Solo Sikoa and join Solo Sikoa's new bloodline. So it kind of really put things in perspective for Roman, where Roman really doesn't have a choice but to work with CM Punk. The other interesting factor in this is what Paul Heyman said to Roman about the favor that he will be giving CM Punk for the help that he's going to have for Survivor Series. Now, what that favor could be, who knows? But it's definitely intriguing. I definitely want to know really what that favor is going to be that Paul Heyman's going to offer CM Punk for his services at Survivor Series. The other thing that I want to talk about too is, specifically CM Punk. Is he actually going to play ball with Roman and help Roman take out Solo Sikoa's new bloodline? Or is, CM Punk going to be a wild card in all of this? Who knows? The other thing to also pay attention to, and I know I mentioned this a couple of times in the past, especially when it pertains to the fifth member of Team Roman, but Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. I would be very shocked and surprised that we do not see an appearance from Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson at Survivor Series at some point, whether it's after the match or, during the match. I'd be very surprised if we don't see Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, because The Rock does factor in to this bloodline storyline. And like I said, it's one of those storylines that, number one, it's the best storyline in all professional wrestling right now. And it's like a fine wine, man. I've said it multiple times since I've been blue in the face. It gets better and better over time. Now we have Paul Heyman returning, and this was the first time that we've seen Paul, or the second time that we've seen Paul since WrestleMania 40. And then Paul brings in CM Punk to help out Roman Reigns, which is a huge, huge deal leading into Survivor Series. And now we have 5 versus 5. So, again, it's going to be a very interesting matchup, man. And now with the advantage going to Solo Sikoa's bloodline, with the help of Jacob Fatu beating Jey Uso, it's going to be a very tall tale task for Roman's original bloodline to not only take on Solo Sikoa's new bloodline, but actually defeat them in the War Games matchup, knowing that Solo Sikoa's bloodline actually has the advantage in the War Games matchup. And they got some heavy hitters on Solo Sikoa's bloodline, man. You got Solo Sikoa, you got Jacob Fatu, and the addition of Bronson Reed, man. And Bronson Reed is going to be a force to be reckoned with inside that cage. And it's going to be absolutely incredible to watch. And I definitely look forward to it, man. I think it's going to be match of the night. But like I said, I would not be surprised if we do not see an appearance of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Speaking of War Games, I also want to talk about the women's matchup for War Games and really what's going on with that. It does look like Bayley is going to be the 5th member for Team Rhea to take on Team Liv at Survivor Series in War Games, which is, again, a big deal. And the reason why I'm saying this is because Jade Cargill was supposed to be a member of the Rhea's team Survivor Series for the War Games matchup, but she was taking out. Someone threw her off a loading bay, which Jade ultimately landed on top of a windshield of a car. And it looks like she was injured or taking off television. Now, I will get into the Jade Cargill situation about the whole injury thing here in a second, but my biggest question is who was the person that attacked Jade Cargill to ultimately eliminate her from the War Games matchup in the U.S. Women's Title Tournament? Is it Bayley? Is it Naomi? Or is it Bianca Belair? There's top 3 names that could possibly be the person that attacked Jade Cargill. Now, speaking of Jade, a lot of people out there were saying that Jade Cargill was actually legitimately injured. And it looks like that is not the case at all. Now, myself included, I said that Jade was injured and that she sustained an injury. And I was told from a lot of people, that Jade was injured. And shame on me for listening to those people. And I will take ownership of that. But come to find out, she's actually not injured. She was written off TV in a storyline that's going to be building up probably towards maybe, who knows, Saturday night's main event or the next big PLE for WWE. But she is not legitimately injured. So the information that I got and a lot of other people got that initially said it were wrong, including myself and a lot of the big wigs that do the podcast stuff out here that also mentioned that Jade Cargill was injured. That was a lie. That was false. And the person that reported that, they were wrong. Jade Cargill is not injured. She is fine. It was a part of a storyline, probably leading up to another important matchup. Like I said, maybe the top 3 candidates might be Naomi, might be Bayley, might also be Bianca Belair. That was the person that possibly attacked Jade Cargill and threw her off that loading bay and having Jade land on top of a car windshield. So again, who knows who it's going to be, but that's my top 3 choices. Either Naomi, Bayley, or Bianca Belair herself. Now, Belair might be a stretch. I understand that because they're tag team partners. I get that. And obviously Belair was a part of a match, and then on the Titantron it showed Jade being injured. I'm just saying Belair's a wild card in it. I know some people might be like, oh, there's no way. I'm just saying she's my wild card. I'm not saying she's actually the person that did it. My top 2 choices, though, would definitely have to be Bayley and Naomi that took out Jade Cargill and eliminated her from the War Games matchup and also eliminated her from the U.S. Women's Title Tournament. Those are my top 2 picks, Bayley and Naomi. Not saying Belair is, but she's definitely in my top 3. But to be honest with you, like I said, man, SmackDown, it was not a bad show. Obviously, the build-up towards Survivor Series is what SmackDown and the previous Raw was all about, is the build-up and lead-up towards Survivor Series. And we got some really, really good matches for Survivor Series, man. Survivor Series has always been one of the top 4 pay-per-views for WWE, along with WrestleMania, Royal Rumble, and SummerSlam as well. So adding Survivor Series to the top 4 pay-per-views for WWE, Survivor Series has always been awesome. It's always been a great event for WWE, even in the past, and I definitely look forward to it. It's going to be a great event. I will be doing my review of Survivor Series. You guys will get a review from me on Survivor Series. And I look forward to it, man. I think it's going to be a great event. I think there's a lot of matches on the card that are bangers, absolute bangers, whether it's Damian Priest taking on Gunther for the World Heavyweight title. You got a triple threat matchup with Braun defending the Intercontinental title against Sheamus and Ludwig Kaiser. You have the Women's War Games matchup. You have the Men's War Games matchup. You got LA Knight defending the U.S. title against Shinsuke Nakamura. Again, it's going to be another really good matchup. Definitely looking forward to that. So again, man, War Games is definitely stacked up from top to bottom. Definitely looking forward to it. And I think it's going to be a great event, man. I think Survivor Series is going to be very, very impactful for this year, for sure. I think it's going to mean, especially the main event, the Men's War Game matchup, man. It's going to be insane. It's definitely going to be insane. It's going to tell one hell of a story. And like I said, I would not be surprised if we don't see an appearance from Dwayne The Rock Johnson. But with that being said, man, like I said, SmackDown was not a bad show. There's really nothing I can really say that was super, super bad about the show. Obviously, it's just mainly build up towards Survivor Series, which is obviously WWE's next PLE. And I'm definitely looking forward to that event. And I think it's going to be an absolute banger of a show. But with that being said, this is my review of Friday Night SmackDown. I hope you guys are out there staying safe. Be careful, and remember, stay classic. Peace.